Talk about some of the cost risks, first in the construction phase, and these can be around things that you would expect to see in a construction project anywhere. They can be around scope, schedule, budget, and quality, but also around terms and conditions and the legal approvals that will be required to allow construction to proceed. So let's kind of look at a typical construction site these days. And you see a range of activities that are performed on site through the life cycle, from planning and preparation through design and procurement and construction. You see a bubble there describing the cost of time, because the longer it takes to move around that cycle, the greater the risk that you'll face and probably the less economical the project will become. At later stages, the facility would be operated and maintained, and then ultimately it would be decommissioned. But today, especially for large projects, not all activities take place at the final construction site. Increasingly, we're moving activities off-site. We're looking at modules and prefabrication. And in effect, we've created one or more additional construction sites, all of which need to be coordinated with the final site of the project. And this requires a lot more emphasis on supply chain and the risks and opportunities associated with it, and also much, much more focus on logistics, and again, the risks and the opportunities that represents. And looking for common choke points, common failure points as you move to multi-site fabrication becomes a very, very important risk asset in today's international development and construction projects. If we look at scope itself, a range of risks that we face: poorly defined or incomplete scope. That's kind of a shame on us. We should know better than that. Interfaces that are not well defined. And I always like to say there's a couple levels to interfaces. There's the direct interfaces that you can see, that you expect, that you can say, well, he needs it to be 3 meters high, and this delivered by the other guy will be 3 meters high. But there's secondary sets of interfaces that are not well defined. And they may actually exist in some of the constraints and in some of the inputs that go into the project. An example I like to use is a program with 3 projects. The critical path flowed through project 1 and into project 2. And project 3 started later than project 1 and finished earlier than project 2 and was not on the critical path. Project number 3 slips 6 months. It's still shown as starting much later than project number 1 and still finishing well before project number 2, not on the critical path. The program schedule should be unaffected. The reality is the program experienced the 6-month slip.